Hello everyone. I, Shreya Shitoy, welcome you all to the Masterclass on Human Performance in Space Environment by AstroCapsule, which is an aerospace company whose goal is to create community of space enthusiasts from all walks of life. Human factors are critical discipline for human spaceflight. Nearly every human factor research area is relevant to space exploration, from the ergonomics of hand tools used by astronauts to the displays and controls of spacecraft cockpit or mission control workstations to levels of automation designed into rovers on Mars to organizational issues of communication between crew and ground. This masterclass focuses on the ways in which space environment affects crew performance and has specific novel implications for human factors research and practice. This will be a 4 day certified course in which we will be covering four different topics, which will be microgravity and human physiology, pre-flight exercise training for astronauts, in-flight countermeasures, and post-flight rehabilitation. The speaker for this masterclass is Dr. Garima Patel, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am, and she has joined us. We are glad.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am, you're
Hi.
audible.
Hi. Good evening. Yeah.
So, ma'am, I'll give a short intro of yours. She is a senior physiotherapist at Revival Physiotherapy, Anand, Gujarat, with more than 10 years of clinical experience in neurological rehabilitation. She is also the founder director of Movement Inspirant Pvt Limited and is currently involved in research related to functional recovery after spinal cord injury, stroke, and other neurological conditions. She has recently completed space studies program at International Space University. Her research interests also include human performance in space, particularly effects of altered gravity on human body, exercise countermeasures, and women's health in space. So, now coming to today's topic for the masterclass, it is microgravity and human physiology. Microgravity is the condition in which people or object appear to be weightless. Micro means small. So, microgravity refers to condition where gravity seems to be negligible. Not taking much of your time, I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Garima Patel, ma'am. And if you all have any doubt, you all can ask it at the end of every topic. So,
Thank you, Shreya.
yes, ma'am, you can continue.
Yeah. Let me just share my screen. Do I have the right of sharing my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Is it visible?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No. I have. Still not.
No, ma'am.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we start with microgravity and human physiology, but just before it, I guess Shreya has forgotten. I just want to know your names and your background. That's it. All the participants. So I can stop sharing it before. Um,
So, ma'am, will start from all of us. Like, I'll start from me. So, my name is Shreya Shitoy, and I am in Pune in Sihagar Institute, studying my undergraduate degree in information technology.
Hello, ma'am. My name is
Hi.
Shitish Walkar and I am a college mate of Shreya Shitoe. We are in both
Okay.
same college. And I am graduating in electronics and telecommunication.
Okay.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Yash. I'm pursuing my BTech degree in aerospace engineering in a third year aerospace student.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
You can call out anyone's name and they can just give a.
ma'am,
So,
I think they couldn't speak. They are sending messages in message box. I
Oh,
think.
is it so? They can unmute,
Yes.
right?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Amruta and I'm a physiotherapist as well. And I've always been a space enthusiast. And currently I'm based in Pune. So I'm very eager to know how physiotherapy and basically how the human body or human performance is governed in the space, in the microgravity. So yes, that's why I'm eager to join this class.
Okay.
Hello, guys. I'm Utsav. I'm doing my master's in avionics at Manipal Institute of Technology. And this I found on LinkedIn and I found it to be very interesting. Therefore, I joined this particular session.
so Amisha Prajapati, you can continue further.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. I'm Amisha Prajapati, and
Hi.
I'm master in physics. Currently, I'm pursuing master in physics in Uttar Gujarat, Anand University. And thanks to you currently join this event. Thanks.
Yeah. Shall I call it name? We only left with Devendra and Ashar, right? So, yeah. Devendra?
Hello, good evening all. Myself Azaruddin. I am myself physiotherapist. Right now I am currently working in UAE, Dubai.
Okay. And we have Devendra, right? It's nothing. Mm. Okay. Anyways, Devendra, do you want to speak or we should continue? Okay. I guess, anyways, it's mixed, right? So, no, you're not. Devendra, you're not audible.
Maybe you can write in a chat box. It's also
Yeah,
good.
he can write. Yeah, he can write. Fine. So, anyways, it's mixed, right? Some of you are from physio or medical, and some of you are absolutely not. So, I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. So, those who have never thought of, human physiology could able to understand at least the basic concepts, right? So, I'll start sharing my screen, and we can window. Here we go. Just confirm. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So microgravity and human physiology. Before actually going to microgravity, I just wanted to tell you people that it's not only the microgravity that affects the human physiology, it's actually the other factors too. So we have space radiation, isolation, distance from the earth, hostile or a closed environment that is within the ISS, and the gravity fields. So interaction between all these five hazards actually imposes challenges on human body. But today we are only gonna see what gravity fields does. Okay, I hope I'm very clear about it. So we will be talking mainly about three systems: neurosensory system, cardiovascular system, and musculoskeletal system, because these are the three which are being researched too much and which greatly impacts the work or the health of an individual. So coming to the neurosensory system. So neuro is the nervous part of the body, okay, that comprises of your brain, spinal cord, the nerves, and sensory means the sensations. Okay, so this is the semantic meaning of neurosensory system. So when we talk about neuro, I already said it is the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Central nervous system means your brain and your spinal cord. Spinal cord is your the backbone. Inside that you have a spinal cord. Okay, so the information is relayed through the nervous system, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system again has your autonomic nervous system, and there are various branches. So you just concerned with the nervous system. Okay, and coming to the sensory system now, this is very important when we talk about human physiology in space. So you have vision. Okay, then you have your somatosensory organs. Now somatosensory organ means your muscles, your skin, your joints. So all those senses which interacting with the environment gives you input about the orientation. Okay, and lastly is the vestibular system. Now vestibular system is in your ear. So we'll further see what are they. So coming to the visual system, can you see my cursor as well? Can you see my cursor?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So when I say visual system, your eyes, they get the information and through a nervous pathway, they give input to your brain that is behind the lower portion, which we call as the occipital lobe. There the information is integrated and further adjustments of the bodies are being made. Okay, so this is about the visual system. Coming to the somatosensory system, so I already said you have different receptors, for example, your skin, your hair, your muscle, your joints. Now, all these receptors, again, with the help of the nervous system, they travel along the spinal cord and reaches the brain to integrate the information. Once they give the information there, you have another pathway of the nerves that brings down the information and tells them what's to do. So very simple example of neurosensory system if I'll give, what happens whenever you touch a hot object? Anyone? You can unmute and say, anyone.
Ma'am, we feel the sensation about that particular thing is hot, and we get a signal through
No,
nerve
I'm just
system.
asking in layman, when you touch, it is very hot, what you do?
Withdraw your
We draw the
Yes,
hand. Yeah,
to withdraw your hand, right?
yeah.
So this is how it happens. You sensed it is hot. A fraction of seconds, it went to your brain. It came down that you have to withdraw the hand. So this is how the somatosensory system works. Okay. Now, when it comes to microgravity, so definitely I'm not going to give you example of how you touch a hot object. It was just for non-medical people. So what happens here is, yeah, so through your where I was, muscle fibers and through your joints, okay, you get a sense. For example, if I'm bending my elbow, I know I'm bending it, I'm straightening it. Even with my eyes closed, I can say I'm bending and I'm straightening it, right? So we call it as flexion and extension. So this is your proprioception. Same way when we stand, okay? When we stand and we move forward or we move backward, or simple, when you tilt your head, so you know which direction you are taking in. So this all is neck I'm talking about, okay? Not about the fixation. So this all is because because your proprioception is normal. The last is the vestibular system. This is very, very important that in your ears are very small, okay? So in your inner ear, you have vestibular system that consists of semicircular canals. Can you see these semicircle like stuff? These are the semicircular canals, okay? Under this, inside this, you have a fluid that floats, okay? And you also have atrial and saccule here. Now, these three things, the canals, the atrial and the saccule, okay, what they do is when you move your head, okay, either forward or backward, or you do a tilt. So either you do a translation or you do a tilt. So I hope the engineering people knows about acceleration, linear acceleration and angular acceleration and so on, right? So that's what happens in the body also when you move forward or backward or you tilt and so on. So they sense this under the influence of gravity, okay, on Earth. They sense this under the influence of gravity and thus helps in our postural control and your gaze stabilization as well. Okay, I hope I'm clear until here. So
Ma'am,
when I
there is some problem. We only can see your first screen. There is something lag over.
you can only okay.
Yes, ma'am. We can only
Yeah.
see.
I'll start sharing it again. PowerPoint share. Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so shall I explain this again because you people didn't see it?
No, ma'am.
It's okay. Can we move
You can
forward?
continue further. Yes.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. So when I said vision, when I said the vestibular system, okay, or the proprioception, they do not work individually. Instead, all this information are being integrated from all these receptors and sent together, where the brain role is to segregate the information, interpret which is meaningful and act accordingly. So this is just a complex diagram how these work. For example, if I'll just take one example of how they work is, for example, if you see some object, okay, whether it is moving or it is still, so your eyes perceive them, they send the information to the brain and thus you know where you are. Okay, same way when you bend your head or you tilt your head or you bend your head, okay, what happens is your inner ear, they sense the motion. Okay, and with this your eyes, they start to move around and goes for a gaze stabilization and thus providing a stable base for us to go for a normal postural control and we don't fall. So usually when you go on a road, okay, when you're crossing, what you do, you look left and right and then you cross the road. Exactly what happens when you look left and right? You don't fall, right? When you move your neck, your eyes are also following it. Okay, and that is called as your vestibulo-ocular reflex. Okay. Okay. Now moving forward, before actually, this is what happens on Earth. Now we want to see what happens on, in microgravity. How many of you are at home? Let me. How many of you are at home? Okay. Let me stop sharing this and we'll go for an activity now. Ma'am, I cannot screen. Oh, okay. Those who are at home can just raise their hands and go and bring a pillow, or if you have, and can you all just, if you are comfortable, just switch on your videos. Yes, those who are at home, please go and bring pillows. Only one pillow, I mean to say.
We are having it at side.
Yeah, you have it? How many of you? Please, 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 because I want to see, and even others too. So only 2, 3 people. Okay, rest all you are not at home. Okay, fine. Those who can stand, you all have to stand, and please adjust your camera so that I can see, you can see others as well. This is an activity because this will help you to understand what I'm gonna say. Right? Just stand on normal floor.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I can't see your video. Yeah. Yes, I can see you now. So it's only Kaustubh and Shreya. I guess someone else has raised their hand, right? They are at home. Please switch on your video. Yeah, Amruta, good. Thank you. Okay, so I hope you are standing right on the floor. Stand normally how you stand, right? Yes. Fine. Now keep your eyes closed. Okay, good enough. Now you can open your eyes. Now that pillow, please place that pillow on the floor. Did you? Yes? Well, you can give a thumbs up if you have placed it. Now stand on the pillow. Yes. Good enough. Yeah. Stand on the pillow. Yeah. Now keep your feet together. And now close your eyes. Okay. Open your eyes. Now, do you have one more pillow with you? Yes, those who have, just keep another pillow on that one. Now just stand on those 2 pillows, one over the other, okay? On the top of other, not like this. You have to keep it on the top. Now stand on 2 pillows. Shreya, finding it difficult? No. Okay. Now keep your eyes closed for 5 seconds. Okay. Now eyes open. You can go back to your seats. Thank you so much. So what do you feel? What did you feel? Anyone? When you were standing on floor and when you were standing on pillow. Can anyone just explain their experience?
Yes.
Yeah.
So while I was standing on the floor, there was I was balanced. I had an equilibrium, and when I was standing on the pillow, it was like a jumble. Like I was finding
So
it quite
did you feel
difficult
that
to,
you are moving forward and backward or sideways, something like that?
yeah,
We
there
were
was a
losing
sway.
balance.
You were losing balance. Shreya, what about you?
Yes, ma'am. Seeing like for the flow, it was very stable. But while on pillow, I was finding it difficult to even stand
Okay.
up.
Okay. And second, okay, you all sat? Okay, no worries. Get up once again. Do you have bed, chair, or table? The most heighted thing in your room.
Uh,
Even it's a bed, chair, table, I don't mind. Whatever it is, okay? What you have to do is, listen carefully. You just have to do a high jump. And while doing that high jump, try to move your feet up and down. That's it.
Okay.
Anyone can do it. Or if you want to experience, all of you can do it.
Okay.
Switch on your videos. I don't know why you all have switched it off. Because of network issues, mine is more bad than yours. Kaustubh, are you ready for a jump? jump and try to move your feet. Okay, when you, oh, you have to jump down because then only you'll get a height. Yeah. You have to jump down from a bed or a chair or table, whatever you have, and then you try to move your feet. Were you able to move, Kostu?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Anyone else has tried it? Amruta, Shreya, Asar? No.
Yes, I mean, I
A
was
bit.
not able to exactly move.
Yeah. But were you able to move it a bit? That's what I mean.
Yeah, kind of.
Only in one direction, like
Yeah,
not forward and backward. Like if we moved it forward, it would be only forward.
Yes.
That's it.
Okay. Now, let me start sharing my screen again and I'll explain you what it means. Share. Yeah. Can you see my screen now? No?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So the first experiment, what we did was standing on different surfaces, right? So why I made you stand on floor and then on pillow with eyes open and with eyes closed, right? So when you were standing on the floor with your eyes open, at that time, your vision, okay, and your proprioception, that is your joints and muscles were working and they were giving you an information about your postural control. Okay. Then I made you to stand on the pillow. Here, what did I do is I tried to alter your proprioception. And that's why when you were moving forward or backward or sideways, when your proprioceptive inputs and your vision, when eyes open, I'm talking about it, okay? They both were helping you to control your postural sway and not to fall, okay? When your eyes were closed at that time, your feet, that is the proprioception, was working, and when you were swaying along with that, your vestibular systems were also active. Now, this was an example how these three systems, so when you had your eyes open and on the floor, all these three systems were working very normally, and I have not altered any of the inputs. On the floor, when your eyes were closed, only two systems, that is your vestibular and your proprioception, were working. Okay. When you were on pillow, so proprioception was altered. So your ear and your vision with eyes open was giving you an input, and with your eyes closed, it was your vestibular and proprioception. So this was an example how you control the postural sway and do not fall, right? The second experiment, what I told you, is to jump. Now, on Earth, other than centrifuge and so on, it is very difficult to uh, have a zero gravity or a microgravity. Where we assume that a free fall, okay, a free fall, that is when you jump, you are not in contact with any surface, that is a free fall. You assume or you feel that you are in microgravity, right? And it was difficult for you to move it. So either it was in one direction or it was a very little movement. So these two experiments were for this purpose, for you to understand what exactly happens and how this system works. Okay. So shall I move ahead with the microgravity now? So what happens in microgravity? Okay, so first we'll see the visual system. When you are there up in this space, the illumination is altered. Now, what here I mean illumination is the source of light. The source of light is sun. So there is no scattering because of our atmosphere. The light scatters and we have particular illumination for an object. What happens there is in spaces, from wherever the solar rays are on a particular object, that object will be illuminated more than that of Earth, and where there are no rays, they are more darker as that of the Earth. Okay. The second thing, what happens is fluid shift. Now, we will be seeing fluid shift in more detail when we read upon cardiovascular system. So when you go in space, the fluid in your body tends to shift upward towards your head or towards the thorax or the chest. Okay. So there is an upward fluid shift. Now, both these two has an effect on your eyes. Okay. First is because there is an altered illumination, and second is there is a fluid shift. There is more and more fluid towards your head. So what happens is there may be a swelling. Okay. There may be a swelling. You have different structures in your eye. They try to fold. Okay. And this, your vestibulo-ocular reflex, I have explained it, your head movement and your vision, the coordination between these two, this is also altered, right? The next thing is the ability to see the close object. Okay, this is decreased, maybe because I said there is a swelling. Okay, because of that. And there is an impairment in judging the distance. Now, why there is an impairment in judging the distance? Lots of theories have been put when we talk about visual impairment. Okay, one theory says is you stay in a confined environment inside the ISS where all the objects are nearby. Okay, when we are on Earth or we are at home, we can go out where there are trees, there are buildings, and so on. There in ISS, there's nothing like that. You know, like you were quarantined in your home, so you know how it is, right? Second thing is the objects which you see outside are very far. So within the ISS, everything is within the reach or at a shorter distance, and the other stuffs are at very large distance. For example, the Earth, the Moon, or the stars, or whatever, or the Sun. So there is no intermediate distance. So you only have a very short distance and you only have very long distance, right? So intermediate distance, that judging has been lost because you have not been practicing it, because that environment has not been given to you. The second thing is the depth. So when you see something from the same height and when you see something from the top. So the simplest example is when you are on a road and you see cars or people roaming around, and whenever you are on the top of the building and you see cars and people, what is the difference? Can anyone tell me that? Or how you perceive people when you're watching them, from a height?
The size actually appears to be small if we see them from a height.
Yes, absolutely. So, but actually they are not, right? So this environment, very closed and confined environment, along with short distances and long distances and absence of an intermediate distance, right? And seeing an object from only a height and not at a particular, all these factors also contribute to the visual impairment. Okay. Next, we move on to the somatosensory. What happens in microgravity to them? So now there is an altered spatial orientation. I already told you, you have done the experiment, standing on different surfaces, jumping and see what happens to, were you able to control or your body, or okay, you didn't try that, fine, I forgot. So this, because your somatosensory systems are not working properly, okay, or I'll say the stimulus to them is absent. You all know that we float in microgravity involvement. So that is the reason you do not get the proprioception until you are on a particular surface. Second, we talk about the vestibular system. Now there is, I won't say a zero gravity, but less or very less gravity that is insufficient to stimulate the vestibular system here. So what happens is these two interact. Okay, so you don't have your vestibular system as well, and you don't have your proprioception as well. Third is, when you talk about the somatosensory system, is the weight discrimination. I guess Shreya in her introductory slide, she has mentioned that they can lift large amount of weight with just their fingertips, right? Now, this is because the pressure stimulation is not there. So when you touch your finger and when you press it, there is a difference, right? So when you lift a pen and when you lift a 1 kg or 10 kg dumbbell, there is a difference. So all these inputs are being altered, and this is the reason the brain is not able to get what is actually it seems to be, right? And that's how the inputs which are given are wrong, and it assumes that, okay, for example, when you will see, when I talk about the musculoskeletal system, on earth I may appear that, okay, I'm standing erect, but when you tell them to stand erect on the ISS, they'll be little bit bent, so they feel this is their normal posture because the inputs are not been given. Now, talking about the vestibular system, I already said that because gravity is not there, okay, so it is not able to sense and not able to give the proper input to the brain. Now, there is something called as otolith tilt translation reinterpretation. Don't go on the terminology. What it simply means is, as I already said, with the head movements, your vestibular system will start work, okay, and they'll get input. What happens there is no gravity, right? So your translation as well as tilt, both are taken as translation only. So the tilt, because the gravity is not there, so the tilt is not perceived as tilt but as translation, right? And that's how misinterpretation of the information. Also, there are some theories which suggest that there are changes in the vestibular receptors as well. Now, how good or how evident are those is still questionable. So what happens when all these inputs are impaired? So do you have any question?
Yes, ma'am, your screen has, I think it was on the fun activity slide.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's because of...
Ma'am, you will get three options while presenting. So
Yes, I'm sharing my window, right?
no, share the entire screen.
Oh.
So it will be much beneficial.
Okay. Can you see it now?
No, ma'am.
I'm sharing the entire screen. Maybe I told you my internet is not that good today. Hold on. Is it visible now? No.
No, ma'am.
Hold on. Now can you see it? It's the meeting one.
Yes, it is visible right now.
Yeah?
Yes.
Now can you see the PPT?
Yes.
Yes. Thank God. So you all missed this section as well. I'm so sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Fine. Okay. So what we are continuing next is, we know these wall systems are being altered. Okay. So what happens if they are altered? First thing is space motion sickness, the most studied, I'll say the affected, the most studied part of microgravity effect on human body is the space motion sickness. Now, what is space motion sickness is? So there are a variety of or different symptoms that are clubbed together, okay, and are named as space motion sickness. For example, you feel nauseatic or vomiting or headache, dizziness, all this, like how motion sickness we feel on earth, right? Whenever you are traveling, some people are um, some people experience that they feel they need to vomit or they feel dizzy or there is headache and so on. So when these symptoms are experienced in space, it is called as space motion sickness. Usually this is felt within hours or a day when you reach there and last for I'll say 3 to 5 days, or max to max 1 week, not more than that, once they start adapting to it. Okay, so there are many mechanisms which are proposed why space motion sickness occurs. For example, the sensory conflict, I said the inputs are not proper, the fluid shift, which is the towards the head, the otolith asymmetry, because they say there is a disparity between right side and left side of your otolith organs, and the OTTR, the just now what we have read. So all these are the proposed theory which contribute to the space motion sickness. Okay, the other um, the other problems what you will see is that there are perceptual effects and illusions of free falling. There are also reorientation illusions and acrophobia episode. What is acrophobia? It is the fear of falling from a height, and this is especially when they are doing an EVA, that is the extravehicular activity, when they go outside the ISS for some repair work or whatever task has been assigned to them. Then they also feel that because of a considerable time when they have spent in microgravity during the re-entry, they feel that the sensory, the vision, it is oscillating. They will have a rapid eye movement. Okay, and that's how you will see that they are wearing the suit and they are confined to one particular position. Okay, and this is also the position which has been given in the space shuttle is also to reduce the space motion sickness. It is said that with your head movements the motion sickness will increase. Okay, then the next is they also feel that the gravity state flashback. So whenever there is an unusual stimulation, or where there is no stimulation of the vestibular system, still they will have that, okay, there is something there. Okay, and also it is said that since there you have the ionized particles and so on, they see that there is a flash in their eyes. So sometimes even with their eyes closed, it just goes inside, the rays can just penetrate the eyes. And there is also an altered resting posture. As I already said, when I'll ask you to stand, you will stand erect, almost an erect posture. Whereas this semi-bent position is considered normal according to the astronauts when they are said to, stand. This, along with the posture, you have the postural control and the balance, which is also been affected as it was there on the pillow. Okay, gait instability. So what happens is on ISS, they do not actually walk. They use their hand, push their body, and they move forward, right? Also, the second thing is when you do not walk for say 6 months, and so your muscles of the lower limb, which will be seen further, they will also get weak because you're not using it. And these two, along with the other sensory inputs, results into gait instability. And do not forget the influence of blood pressure at this time. Okay, there is a problem with your eye hand coordination, so eyes are not giving you proper input. Okay, the distance you are unable to judge, so may be contributing to altered eye hand coordination. So before moving ahead, if you have any queries relating to neurosensory system, I'm here to answer. Is the screen was still stuck? Does anyone has any questions, or shall I move forward?
Ma'am, actually, I had a question.
Yeah.
Like the resting position which they have, and when they're in the space suit, so they can't move much. So don't they feel stiffness? Like,
Yes, stiffness. I mean, in spacesuits or when they are normally in their ISS.
in space suit.
Yes, because space suits, they allow minimal movement, or I'll not say minimal, an optimal movement actually. What if you see these space suits? Okay, they are more designed to use the hands and less of your legs. Okay, so when tomorrow when I'll be taking the day after, right, in flight, there will be talking about or yeah, even tomorrow they will be talking about what happens when they wear these space suits. There are different type of injuries too, not only the stiffness. Definitely they do feel a stiffness, but there are injuries also because of it. And when you talk about stiffness, I would like to talk about the ascent and the re-entry. Like when they are in space shuttle, it takes hours, right? And before the actual takeoff, they are being in the position. So from 2 to 6 hours they can be in that particular position wearing a spacesuit. Now you can imagine the amount of stiffness what they feel. Okay, but once you are there in the microgravity, you do not have to encounter a force to move yourself. Are you getting me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So it's just like a free fall, and it's like when I'm actually not. It is relaxed, but when I'm relaxed, it just dropped down because the gravity is pulling it, right? And there is minimum gravity, I can say. So yes, definitely stiffness is there, and there are injuries which are imposed because of space suits. Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am.
Anyone
Ma'am,
else? Yeah.
yeah, ma'am, I want to ask a question. Ma'am, does gravity, since we are talking about the neurosystem, does gravity affect the muscle spindle reflex in any way? So I indirectly want to ask if the
Yes, so
muscle
H
tone is
reflex.
affected in any
Yes,
way.
definitely. So you want to ask about the H reflex, right? If simply I want to
Yeah, I
say,
mean, yeah.
yes, yes, absolutely, it is going to affect because are you a
Okay.
physio? You said you are a physio, right?
Yes, yes, I am.
Yes. So what happens exactly? You have a motor neuron, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
whenever you stimulate, you have a particular action potential to be generated. When I talk about specifically about a
Yes,
reflex, okay? Right?
yeah,
So what happens at that
yeah.
time is when you are on earth, when you get a normal input, you will have a normal muscle action because everything
Mm-hmm.
is considered so called because we feel that the earth environment is normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about H
Right.
reflex there, yes, they are affected, they are reduced, they are delayed action potentials, everything is decreased.
Okay, so indirectly the muscle tone will also reduce, right?
See, muscle tone is a different entity when you talk about. So what do you mean by a
Okay.
muscle tone? Are you getting
Because
me what I'm trying to
so
say?
yeah, I got you. Like so basically the muscle tone is
So
regulated
you,
by the muscle spindle reflex, right? So if the reflex is affected, so it means that the muscle tone will be affected as well.
yes, but that's what I'm saying. When you're talking about muscle tone, it is a peripheral phenomenon, right?
Right, right,
Peripheral
right,
phenomenon which is controlled by higher centers as well later on when you
right,
want to
right,
correct it,
right,
when you want to correct the movement.
right,
So when you
right,
talk
right.
about resting potential, yes, but when you talk about movement there is a difference,
Okay.
right?
Ma'am,
You adequately, Amrita? Okay, yeah.
ma'am, do microgravity
Hello.
affects on blood pressure? Means
Yes,
it
we will be
increase
covering it.
or
We will be covering it in cardiovascular system. In the system, well, I'll be talking about heart.
okay.
Any more questions? No. Okay. Fine. So we move forward to the musculoskeletal system now. Again, muscles, skeletal, bones forming joints and so on, and having the framework of your body. Okay. So there are different types of muscles. Okay. I'm sharing my screen, right? Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Yeah. So you have muscles, specialized muscle, which are only confined to the heart. They are called as the cardiac muscles. You have muscles which joins the two bones or multiple bones, though they are called as the skeletal muscles. And you find another type which are in the organs, and we call them smooth muscles. Okay. Now, depending upon the other, this is one classification. The other is we classify them as type 1 and type 2. Okay. So one muscles which will be used, or the muscles which can be used for longer duration of work, and the others which can be used for shorter duration, or the one which acts quickly and the other which acts for prolonged period of time. So we have type 1, type 2. Okay. And also depending upon which okay, you all know that our body uses ATP as the fuel. For example, in the cars you have petrol or diesel with which they work, right? So we work on the basis of ATP. So that is the fuel for our body. Okay. And they are there in the muscles. Next is the skeleton. Now, depending upon the various shapes and size, so we have different types of bone. But what here I would like you to know is these cells in the bones. So you have osteocyte, osteoblast, osteogenic, and osteoclast. Okay, where osteoblast, these are the cells which are responsible for formation of the bone. Osteoclast will cause resorption or destruction of the bone, in other terms. Okay, they are called as osteocytes, which will maintain a balance between these two, osteoblast and osteoclast activities. Okay, and there are osteogenic cells. These are the stem cells or the precursors that will form the osteoblast and hence help into bone formation or bone maturation. There is another tissue which is called as osseous tissue in the bone, which is which tells us about the strength of a particular bone. Okay, and depending upon the osseous tissue, you can call them as compact or spongy. Now, what happens in a compact tissue is that the cells, they are arranged in a concentric manner, or I can say in a circular fashion. Whereas in spongy bone, they are like a matrix or a trabecules are being formed. Here, why I've highlighted this trabeculous system is under the influence of stress, these trabeculous systems will be formed. So, for example, an apparently normal individual having no other what to say, abnormality. Okay, so when we bear weight on our limbs or on our legs, okay, depending upon the stress, the direction of the stress, the amount of stress placed, these trabecular systems or these networks will be formed. And if we are not bearing this weight, okay, these will formed less and not in an appropriate direction. So here, I guess everyone knows about polio, right? So polio, which is affecting leg, one or both the legs, you could have seen that their bones are very small. If not, you can just search on Google and you will find that, right? What happens is when some persons, along with other factors, okay, I'm only concerned here about how these trabecules are formed. Okay, I'm not saying that muscles in your spinal cord and your brain doesn't play a role, but here I'm particularly talking about how these trabecular systems will work. So what they do is when a person is affected with polio, since their muscles are not active, okay, they are being paralyzed and they are not bearing weight since childhood. So you can see their upper body and the lower body, right? The bones are very thin and weak. So this is actually what happens when we are on gravity. So when we are in gravity on Earth, what is a weight? When we stand here on Earth, our weight has been reflected. When we stand in space, we have much less or negligible weight, and we do not put much stress on a particular bone, which it's, or the weight bearing bone, which it should be, right? So how it is going to affect the muscles? First thing is your skeletal muscles or the anti-gravity or the postural muscles, okay? They are the ones who are more affected or more weakened by microgravity because you are not using it. Second, your muscles of legs are more affected than your hands because you are not walking, you are not standing. For moving, you are using your hands. So this may be a reason. At least you are using your hands, and they are being working and not weakened. So that's why I use muscle atrophy, disuse. So you are not using them. And second is the nitrogen loss. So nitrogen is an important component for protein, and your muscles are made from protein, right? When you go into space, the nitrogen loss is more than that of the earth, and that's why it again starts reducing the muscle size. Then there is a decrease in muscle strength. Now, one reason is definitely because you are not using them. Second, when on earth you are moving, you are continuously counteracting some force. That means you are counteracting gravity or friction force or shear forces and so on. When you are on space, you do not have this. So you do not have to overcome, even you have to lift 100 kgs. And that's why these space suits, despite being so heavy, can be carried out by people. Okay. The other thing is the extensors are more okay. So there are, depending upon the action of muscles, okay, we classify, or it's not classify, or we name them flexors or extensors. Now flexion is an action where two bones, they are moving towards each other, right? So when I am bending my elbow, my forearm is coming towards the arm. Now this is the flexion movement, and the muscles which are responsible for this are called as the flexor muscles. Okay, when I'm trying to straighten, that is taking away from it, it is called as the extension movement, and the muscles which are performing this movement are called as extensors. So in microgravity, when we say that the muscle strength has been decreased, your extensor components or the extensor muscles are being more affected than flexors. Why? Because I already showed you the resting position. You do not have to counteract the gravity. You do not have to assume an erect posture, right? And there is a loss in muscle stamina as well as endurance. So when I talk about this strength, it is how much you can lift. When I talk about endurance, is how long you can work. Okay, so both of these aspects are also affected. Coming to the bones. So it is said that per month, around 2% of the bone loss can be there. And we measure the bone loss by measuring the bone mineral density, right? So BMD, that is what we say, and it is around 2%. Again, why so? So there is an increased calcium excretion. Like we saw in the muscles, there is increased nitrogen elimination from the body. Same way, there is an increased calcium excretion, and the bone formation has been suppressed. Now, exactly why this happens, there are again speculations and many theories, okay? But what is most acceptable is that the stress which has been placed under which the osteoclast and the osteoblast activity will work is absent, right? And that's why these people are more prone for weakness of the bones, having fractures. And when we say that the bone becomes weak, it is the osteoporosis, that your bones are, the calcium is less, the bone mineral density is less, and they become weak. And so on earth, we call them osteoporotic patients, right? And when compared with astronauts, we say that they are hypersedentary. So one factor is for osteoporosis, as you can see very commonly in elderly adults. So in old age, people don't move around much as that of their previous life, exceptions of those who do certain amount of physical activity. Okay, so most of them, they will be sitting, reading newspapers, watching TV, or nowadays cell phones and so on. And we call these people who are not involved in physical activities, or those who are not doing exercises, sedentary person. When compared to astronauts, so astronauts were hyper sedentary, means the amount of bone loss or the bone weakness is expected or seen is more than that of the sedentary people on earth, and actually is more faster, the rate is more faster than on earth. So that's why they are sometimes called as hyper sedentary people. Now with this weakening of your muscles and your bones, astronauts repeatedly have knee pain, back pain or injuries, cervical or the neck pain, the hamstring strain, that is in your thighs. You must have seen cricket there, when while they run, they start holding their thighs. Sometimes, how do I show you? Okay, so the front, just imagine this is your knee joint. Okay, this is your hip. So the front muscle, and you have a back muscle in your thigh. So the back muscle is the hamstring one. And they also have finger dislocations, right? So these were amongst the other more highlighted problems which astronauts face. Yes, so here we end with the musculoskeletal system. And do we have any questions?
Ma'am, can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Ma'am, as we read in news articles, there are missions, astronauts, when they return to the Earth. I have read in this news article that they have increased their height. Is that true that
Yes,
there is a difference or a
yes,
growth in the
actually.
bones?
So you want to know why?
Yeah,
Yes, okay. If you see the spine, I hope you know the spine, right? Right
yeah,
here
yeah.
at the back. Yes. So you have a spinal column, vertebrae, right? And
What is
in
that, sir?
between that, you have a disc,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Now, that disc contains water.
Oh,
So what actually happens is, when you are there, I already told you there is an upward shift of the fluid,
yeah, yeah.
right? And second thing is, there is no stress force. So nothing is counteracting,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
So this disk height is increased because the water is getting inside, okay, and there
yeah.
is no pressure on it that will push it down. So just imagine a sponge. What happens when you pour a glass of water in a sponge? It will soak it,
Soaked. Yeah,
right? And when you press it, it comes out.
yeah.
And when you press it,
Right.
when you are actually pressing it, the height of the sponge reduces.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
The same thing goes with your, if in layman term, I have to say, there are many other factors, but if in
Okay.
layman term, in simplify, I want to tell you this. And that contributes to your height. And that's why even on earth, if you measure your height, once you get up in the morning from the bed, when you are lying whole day, whole night, and you
Okay.
get up in the morning and measure your height, and then after your work, go home in the evening and again measure your height.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
I will try it.
Yeah, try and tell me how much it is.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Anything else?
And it's affect age fact age. There is any difference in age? Yeah, not.
For what?
Uh, means there is a difference. Means age is increase or remains same after
Age?
during the missions in the space.
I'm not able to get your question.
Ma'am, I have heard that some have increased the age. Means sometimes they
Okay,
uh,
aging process, you mean to say?
yes.
Yes, that is what I say. Right. So what happens is, what is an aging process? Okay. It's not related to your numbers,
Okay.
right? It's not related to your number. So it's not the number of birthdays what you have celebrated when you talk about aging process.
Okay.
Aging process means how healthy you are able to keep your body systems when you are talking about this aging, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I am deteriorating more, so if I am supposed to have a certain amount of say ability, right? So today I can run 5 kilometers.
Okay.
In space, when I come back, I'm unable to. Or, in other words, I can say when I said that the calcium excretion from the body, or the calcium deposition, rather, I'll say, the calcium deposition in the bones is reducing. Okay, so as the effect of normal aging, even on Earth, okay, there are many factors, including the exposure to sun, your hormones, how active you are or you are not. That's what I say, sedentary you are or you are an active person. These are factors contribute to how much calcium you will be having in your bone. Now, what happens to an elderly people? Do they run often? I mean, they don't, right? So uh, one factor, I'm just taking one factor, this one factor, and that's how their bones are weak. Whenever they fall, they are more at the risk of getting fractures, right?
Okay.
Second, same stuff happens in space. When you are in space, you are not putting those stresses on the body, on the bones, and your calcium excretion, that removal process is more, right?
Yes,
Again,
ma'am.
your bones are getting weak.
Yeah.
So this is the aging process. It is not related to the number
The
of
age factor.
days they have spent. Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is this is just one. And this same happens with all the systems. Even with your muscles, with your bones, with your nervous system, with your cardiovascular system, all the system, even with your skin, I can say. Even with your skin. So ours, and you check the elderly, it is dry and scaly and you can see wrinkles. So that's aging,
Hmm.
right?
Yes, ma'am.
Uh,
I got it, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
yeah. Anyone else? No. So I can take two messages. Either everything is understood and or nothing is understood. So I don't know.
Everything is understood, ma'am.
Understood, ma'am.
That is so kind of you. I can say that. Fine. So, moving ahead with your cardiovascular system. Okay, cardiovascular. Again, cardiac means heart, vascular means vessels. Vessels is arteries, nerves. ठीक है? वो I guess so side में जो कटवट कर देते हैं. Yeah, those are the vessels. Jokes apart. So everyone has a heart, right? And the heart has 4 chambers. If you see, the upper chambers are called as the atrium, whereas the lower chambers are called as the ventricles. So if you divide the heart into 4, right and left, okay, and up and down, so you will be having a right atrium, that is the right upper chamber. The left atrium is the left upper chamber. Right ventricle, that is the right lower chamber, and left ventricle, that is the left lower chamber. Okay. What is the function of the heart? The function is, oxygen and carbon dioxide. So give oxygen, remove carbon dioxide, transport some hormones, immune system components such as WBCs and so on, and heat regulation, right? When you see the heart, I told you about the 4 chambers. There is something called as the vena cava. Can you see this blue or the purple blue one? So these are the vena cava. It is called as the vena cava, and they are attached to the right upper chamber, where blood from different parts of the body, that is the deoxygenated blood, the blood, or in layman they say impure blood. Okay, yeah. So the impure blood is being given to the right upper chamber. Okay, this right upper chamber, it contracts and the blood gets into the right lower chamber. From this right lower chamber, you can see another path. Okay, From here, through the pulmonary artery, this impure blood goes to the lungs. Okay. From the lungs, again, with the help of these pulmonary veins, it comes to the left atrium or the left upper chamber. It contracts, it goes to the left lower chamber. I'm sorry for the background noise. And through this left ventricle contraction, it goes to the aorta, which is the big vessel through which different body parts will receive the blood. Okay, now let us see how this happens. So I hope you remember these 4 chambers. That's it. Okay, right upper, right lower, left upper, left lower.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens is, once the blood from the vena cava will carry impure blood from lower body and the upper body, and they will drain into the left upper chamber. The left upper chamber will give the blood to the left lower chamber, sorry, the right lower chamber. From here, the blood will go to the lungs where we breathe and we get the oxygen. So perfusion and diffusion takes place, and the oxygen is being put into the impure blood, making it pure, or we call it as an oxygenated blood. And through the vein, it comes to the left upper chamber. From there, again, the heart or the chamber contracts and it goes to the lower chamber. From there, different parts of the body. Okay. Now, when we call that the impure blood goes to the heart, this is called as venous return. Okay. Now, this venous return, especially for the lower body, okay, it works against gravity. Now, just imagine when you put, what to say? Okay, when you just pour a water in a water bottle, okay, when you're pouring it, it goes down. But can you just push it up? I don't think so. It is that easy until it is flexible or stretchable. So if you press that bottle, it will go up. The same thing happens in our legs. Okay, so what happens is we have the calf. Okay, so these are the calf muscles, and the blue one denotes the vein. When the calf muscles, they contract, that is, they compress. Okay, the blood is pushed up, and when they relax, so just like a plastic bottle, when you have already poured water, okay, when you are not doing anything, the water will remain there. When you press it, the water will move up. Okay, so here when the muscles are contracting, okay, or they are pressing the vein, the blood will go up, and when they are not doing anything, the blood will go out or be there itself. Also, when you want to prevent, when you are pressing it, there are chances that when it contracts, the jitna upar gaya hai, the amount which has gone up may come down. So you want to protect it. For example, if from this side it has gone up, you have to protect it so that it doesn't come down again, because gravity is constantly pulling it. Now that work is being done by something called as valve. Okay, so this is how the venous return or the blood from the legs are being pushed upwards. Now here I will also talk about the role of kidney. Now we all know that the kidney, it will filter the water and forms the urine, right? Now blood also formed of water and the cells like red blood cells or white blood cells and so on. So the water component is more. So what does this kidney does is, along with your heart, this will work in synchrony and decide how much urine has to be produced. Okay, so for example, if the water content is more, okay, in your body, it will try to excrete more water under the influence of hormone. or if it is less, it will try to conserve it. In other words, very commonly seen in patients having blood pressure on earth, right? So it has been suggested that for them to take less salt. I guess every one of us must have heard about it. The salt concentration or the limit salt intake if you have blood pressure, high blood pressure, I mean to say. So this blood pressure, the salt and water along with the kidney plays a role. Okay, so whenever you have more salt in your body, okay, the signal goes to your kidney, and whenever you have less salt concentration in your body, again the signal goes to the kidneys, and depending upon that, the body will try to conserve water by reducing the urine output, or uh, it will start excreting more water by increasing the urine output. Okay. So what is blood pressure when I talk about it? Blood pressure is nothing but the pressure which is exerted by the blood on the walls of the vessels. So it is same as that of a pipe. Okay. When you open the tap, the water that goes through the pipe and exerts some pressure, it is same like that, right? And there are some factors. So when it exerts pressure, it means it is going to have pressure in all the directions, right? Okay, so depending upon how much resistance this particular artery, this means I'm taking example, this particular artery gives to the blood flow determines the pressure, right? Also, what is the extensibility, how much this artery can extend, can if more amount of blood has to be going through it, it has to distend to accommodate that, right? So there are different factors when the blood flows through the artery. For example, what happens if the blood volume increases, right? So if there is more blood volume, the artery has to expand. Otherwise, if it does not, the pressure is going to increase. Second, I said that the heart will pump out the blood. So the more number of times the heart pumps, that it contracts, it relaxes, it contracts, it relaxes, more amount of blood will be going out. Then there is something called as, okay, I don't want you to go into stroke volume. Okay, so there are different entities which are being measured. For example, with each contraction, how much blood has been pumped out from the heart, how much blood has been pumped out in 1 minute. Okay, all these measurements have been taken. And what is the viscosity of the blood? Viscosity means how thick is blood. I said that blood is made of water and cells, right? So how much water is there? More water, less viscous. Less viscous, more easily it can flow, right? So there is something called as cardiac output. Cardiac output is how much milliliter of blood is been pumped out in 1 minute. Okay, and it purely depends upon how many times your heart has beat. Heartbeat means number of times your heart has contracted. So it's just like a balloon. You fill water, you press, jitni baar aap karoge utni baar hoga, right? And how much blood in per beat it has ejected. So when you count it, it is in for 1 minute, it is called as the cardiac output. Do not forget, when I'm talking about four chambers, the arteries, the venous return, this all happens under the influence of nervous system. Specifically, there are two innervations. We called it as the autonomic nervous system. Okay, just remember there are sympathetic and parasympathetic, just name given, and these two will counteract each other. So where we say that sympathetic, it excites everything, and parasympathetic, it calms down. Okay, so what happens? What happens when in a class suddenly your teacher calls you out and asks you some question? Anyone has experienced your heartbeat at that time? No.
Yes, it
Okay.
spikes up.
Yes, ma'am.
Ah,
We feel nervous about it.
you feel nervous. Yeah, that's why the term nervous.
Yeah.
Actually, it's your heart which is beating fast, but because of your nervous system,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yeah.
every one of you are a fan of football or cricket, and it's the critical moment, whether we are gonna lose or we are gonna win. Again, you have that stuff, right? So your sympathetic system and parasympathetic system, or the nervous system, it regulates in that way, either to increase or to reduce depending upon the situation. Now there is another entity which are called as the baroreceptors. Okay, now what do baroreceptors do? Now again, there are the receptors, just like your skin or your hairs and so on. They are the receptors which are located in the arteries. Okay, and basically in the large arteries, like I have said, aorta and so on. So what happens is, these receptors, they get stimulated, okay, and they send impulse to the concerned area. Fine, the concerned control area, I can say. From there again, the inputs come back and your heart works. So for example, whether you want more oxygen or less oxygen when you are exercising, when you are resting. So when you are exercising, you breathe fast, okay, your body requires more what to say, blood or more oxygen particularly, and oxygen has been delivered through blood, right? So this is how your baro, and we called it as a baroreceptor reflex. Okay, and the last one is the fluid volume regulation, kidney, which I have already explained. Now all this thing, when we talk about blood pressure, this happens against a pressure gradient. We all know, you must have seen whenever you go for a trip or whenever you go for vacation and so on, there is a label written this much height from sea level and so on, right? So same thing happens with your body, right? As the depth increases, the pressure is gonna increase, right? So here you can say it is 70, 100, and as in the lower it is 200. So this same thing happen, okay, but this is under the influence of gravity, right? Now it's time for another fun activity. Those who are at home, go bring a bottle, if you have a bottle, or a glass, a bowl, and a cloth piece, maybe a handkerchief or a face towel or something like that, right? And then we'll be carrying it forward. What happens in microgravity? Go, 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 run, run, run. And you can switch on your videos as well. I'll repeat, you need to have either a bottle or a glass of water, then a bowl and a piece of cloth. It may be your handkerchief or a small piece of cloth, I mean to say.
Yes, ma'am.
Who all have got it?
Yes, ma'am.
One, two. Okay, so you have got a glass or water bottle, whatever, and you
Mm.
have a bowl, right? So you
Yes,
can
ma'am.
just shift your cameras like that.
So,
It's okay if I don't see your face. We all want to see the experiment. That's it.
well,
Can you see it, ma'am?
hmm,
Yes, I can see Shreyas. I guess you have virtual background. That's why it has some problem.
One second, we can change the background. Is it visible now, ma'am?
Yes, 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 I can see. I hope everyone else can see. If yes, just thumbs up with your virtual hand, those who are not sharing the screen. Usher has raised his hand for. Was that a thumbs up? Okay, anyways, we have less time. Fine. What you can do is now just dip a portion of that handkerchief or that cloth into the glass, right? And you have to squeeze it and transfer the water in the bowl. Fast. Let's see who can finish it.
Done.
But you only have to do it with a portion, okay? You don't have to do it fast. It just, you have to finish it within 30 seconds. You can squeeze as much as you want. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Yeah, squeeze hard.
Done.
Water finished?
From that.
From glass to bowl, you have
Oh,
to. Yeah, you have to finish all the water fast.
from the glass.
Yes, you have to dip the cloth. You have to squeeze. Do it. Let's see who all are doing. And I just want to check.
Me.
Let's do it. I'm happy that non-medical people are learning how our heart works. Yes, this is how our heart works. And your time is up. Who finished? Who finished it?
No, still the water
Still
is there.
remaining? What about you?
Ma'am, just now.
Who's the-
Okay, okay. Actually, we are running out of time. That's why I'm unable to give you. You can try this later on. Okay,
Okay.
what you experienced when the water was on the top, was it easy to dip, squeeze?
Yeah.
No, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We
Yeah.
have.
When it was
Yeah,
on the top, yes, it was
yeah.
easy.
Then as the water level decreased, what has happened?
So we need to we need to put
You
some
took
more.
more time to go
We have
in.
to.
Right.
Okay.
We have to
Then,
dip.
yeah, difficult. Then what happened when you squeezed it?
Uh,
Amount of water was
amount of water was spilled into the bowl.
Yes. And when I said do it more fast, you have to do it. What did you do? Did you do more, more strong?
more
Did you
squeezing
squeeze it more
with
strongly
more pressure with more
so
pressure.
that more water could go?
Yeah, exactly right.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And I
Yes,
told you
ma'am.
to take small portion of the cloth, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What it would have been if I would have told you, right, you can dip whole cloth and do it.
It
Water
would
would
have
have finished
been
faster.
It would be faster, ma'am, first
huh.
of all.
Good. Now this what happens when your heart is there in microgravity.
Okay.
In microgravity, okay, I should start. Okay, I'll explain it here and then I can read it. Microgravity, what happens is there is a fluid shift, upward fluid shift, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. Where is my PPT? Can you see my PPT now?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No. Can you see it now? Stop it sharing.
Yes, it's visible, Rahul.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So same as the cloth piece, what happens is your heart size, since there is no much demand placed, your heart size starts reducing. Okay. And there is also an upward fluid shift because gravity is not pulling it down, right? So initially what happens is as the heart, the fluid is more up, right? Less in the lower body, your heart has to pump blood. So imagine what you have done with the cloth. Initially, when you have easily, so you could contract and you could relax and dip it up, right? What happens there is Yeah. What happens there is your heart size reduces, right? And the amount of blood that that it gets from the lower body is also less. Okay. So what it has to do is, if it has to put more blood, it has to pump more, right? How you can pump more blood? Either you get more volume of the blood, or you have to contract more, or you have to press your cloth so hard that in one time you could spill more water. Are you getting me? Can you compare it with your heart now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what happens is, with the fluid shift, can you see this photograph, first photograph of an astronaut? This
Yes,
was
ma'am.
taken on Earth, and this on ISS. Can you figure out some difference here?
Ma'am,
A general.
Yes, ma'am. Like her eyes have been smaller.
shrink.
हाँ, eyes are smaller. क्यों? हम जब सो के उठते हैं, I mean when we sleep for hours and when we get up, we see swelling somewhere, right? And
Yes, ma'am.
our eyes get very low. Exactly. So here you can see her face. Here is the face. Can you see it is more fuller than on Earth?
Yes, ma'am.
This is because of fluid shift, and we called it as puffy face syndrome. So
Mm.
because of the fluid shift towards the head, okay, more amount of fluid has been stored in upper body, which results in swelling like appearance or a puffy face. On the contrary, here can you see thin legs or thin lower body, I can say, as compared to the left picture, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So this is again because of fluid shift, and this is called as chicken leg syndrome. Okay, so these two phenomena are seen in microgravity. There is again decreased in blood pressure. There is VO2 max. Okay, uh, when you exercise, okay, when you exercise, you require, or even when you walk fast or you are doing an activity, you require oxygen for everything. Okay. Now this oxygen consumption, okay, we called it as VO2 max. When the amount of oxygen that you or your body requires when it is doing an activity at the highest level you can perform. So the maximum amount of oxygen what is required, it is called as VO2 max. Now this is also reduced as compared to the pre-flight condition when they are on board over there. Okay. And because of this, there's something called as orthostatic intolerance. Now, what is orthostatic intolerance? In ISS or in space, the heart is now adapted to the body condition where less amount of oxygen or blood flow is required as compared to Earth, right? When they land on Earth, again, the gravity starts pulling the blood into the legs. However, it was up or towards the head in space, right? So less amount of blood now is being going to go into the right upper chamber, because your lower limb muscles or the calf muscles are not being used there. They have, or they are not working properly as soon as you land on Earth, right? Because of this, your blood pressure falls and you feel giddiness. Okay, so orthostatic intolerance is basically the term which is used on Earth when there is a change in position, okay, and your cardiovascular system is not able to supply the demand along with other factors like your vestibular system, your musculoskeletal system, and so on, and you feel dizzy or you faint, right? So, for example, few individuals who lie down, okay, and you ask them to get up, you ask them to get up and they feel okay, a fraction of vertigo, right? So this is also what is seen in astronauts as well. Now, here I end with my cardiovascular as well. And if you have any further, yeah, remember I have not spoken about what happens when the astronauts are being launched, okay, and when they are re-entering the Earth. We have only spoken about the microgravity environment, the ascent or launching, and the re-entry. Okay, in that condition, the gravity is gonna increase. So when we say 1g is on Earth, 0g in space, so they could exhibit maximum up to 6g, 6 times. Okay, when they are changing, we call it as altered gravity fields. Okay, so we have not spoken about it, so do not mix these terms, because adaptations and response are two different entities. Response is as soon as you are exposed to a particular environment or situation, how your body reacts. And adaptation is when you spend a considerable time in a particular situation or environment or the stimulus, how you are going to react at that time. Okay, so response, adaptations, these all are different entities. Microgravity, accelerations during ascent and descent, they are different. Yeah, if there are any questions, you can ask me. Again, everything is understood, nothing is understood,
Yes,
right?
ma'am. My query was answered in this section, so I have cleared all.
Oh, okay. Anyone else? No. And I forgot. I guess Amruta, you have asked about muscle tone in microgravity, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So basically, if you will say the influence of microgravity and muscle tone, definitely it is going to decrease, and that is what being depicted by the H reflex measurements and so on, because getting an ankle jerk or knee jerk over there is almost impossible, right?
Right.
Yeah. So any other doubts or any other aspects you would like me to clarify?
No, I just had this question and
Yeah, that is
stand.
definitely noted. And they actually, the H reflex is more authentic because you can measure the action
Right.
potentials, right? So you have those readings.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's all. So no more questions.
Even I think so, ma'am. There are no more questions. So we come to an end for today's session here. And I would like to thank Dr. Garima Patel, ma'am, for such an amazing session. Tomorrow, yes.
I hope. I mean, the non-medicals were able to understand a bit.
Yes, ma'am.
That
Yes,
was
yes,
Thank you,
my
ma'am.
aim.
yes. So,
Ma'am, we had bio in 11, 12, so it was revisiting the uh, flashbacks.
Yes, it is as
Yeah,
simple. The
as
concept
simple as
remains the same. Only the thing is, you just take out gravity from everything.
yeah. We have to relate it with the gravity, yeah,
Yes, that's it.
microgravity.
Because we have spoken only about gravity, and that's what I said in my first slide. So do not forget about radiations. Do
Mm.
not forget about hostile environments, because their
Yeah,
psychology and all changes there. Right?
yeah,
For 6 months, you haven't met anyone. So same as that of your lockdown, when
yeah,
you were
yeah,
not able to go outside.
yeah, ma'am.
Yeah.
right.
So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah, can I leave?
Yes, yes. You
Yes,
all
ma'am.
Yes.
also with the same enthusiasm as it now.
I think there is a question in the chat box. So every system dysfunctions. Okay, if you talk about gravity, because we are being born in gravity, and when that is being taken from us, I will say it's not dysfunction, it is adjusting to the new environment. A simple example is when a newborn birth is been taken. Okay, what happens at that time? It comes through the birth canal, okay, where it in normal condition where the head is the first portion that comes out. Okay, you have your vestibular system. So if you can go and see the videos, you can see that the head is stated, you know, how the fixation, we call, there are different disengagement, there are other terminologies given, and your vestibular system acts. And it has been found in studies, those who are born with their legs first compared to those who are born with their head first has difference in their vestibular reflex, vestibular organs. So I'm not saying they're abnormal. Okay, so every system dysfunction with relate to on earth, we can say, but actually your systems are adapting to a new environment so that you could sustain life there. Any more questions in the chat box if I have missed? No, I don't think so. Yeah. So
Yes, ma'am.
it's all over from my side. Thank you so much for your patient listening.